cannabis and your gut issues. Because that last video went viral, let's talk about Crohn's, colitis, and IBD in 5 minutes. Welcome back to the Canna Education channel of CV Sciences. Help us out with a follow. I'm Lex Pelger, and these are the lovely products of PlusCBD. And let's start with a place you weren't expecting. Pete Davidson of Saturday Night Live fame. In this YouTube interview with High Times, he reveals that with his Crohn's disease, cannabis is the only thing that keeps it in check. He got diagnosed at 17 and tried all of these different drugs and treatments, and nothing worked. It was only weed that allowed him to eat. And now when he tries to do a gig sober, it goes horribly because he feels terrible. It's just smoking cannabis that lets him feel healthy enough to perform. And to me, it's anecdotes like this that matter. All the stories that you share in the comments mean so much to me, and they help other people as well. Because with something as personal as these gut issues, everyone reacts differently, but we can all learn from each other. So, thank you for sharing. First, what is the state of the science? Second, how is the endocannabinoid system involved? And thirdly, what are some lesser known cannabinoid treatment options? First, this meta-analysis looked at 8 studies of Crohn's disease and colitis and combined the data to find that cannabinoids are associated with improved disease activity and quality of life. You also have a recent survey of people with GI symptoms who said that cannabis caused persistent symptom improvement. And in this survey of inflammatory bowel disease, 85% of them reported that it improved their symptoms. As well as this survey of patients with inflammatory bowel disease, those who started using cannabis had less visits to the ER and less impacts of symptoms on their daily life. Then, among Canadians, they also agree that cannabis helped with inflammatory bowel disease, but only half of them would talk to their doctor about it. Side note, talk to your doctor. They need to know, and if they don't approve, fire them for being a fathead. Or send them to this page on CVResearch.info where I have all this data collected and 100 more studies than I can cover here. So, furthermore, in a trial of people with Crohn's disease, CBD-rich cannabis extracts cause significant improvements to the quality of life. In people with IBD, 6 months of medical cannabis improved their appetites. And a small trial of people with irritable bowel syndrome, a mix of CBD and CBG, reduced abdominal pain. And then in public health data, you also have a review like this one of data from the UK Medical Cannabis Program, and they found that for patients with Crohn's disease and colitis, they had improved symptom scores and higher quality of life after 3 months of use. Also, in more public health data on patients with colitis, cannabis was associated with a lower average length of hospital stay. And in public health data of hospitalized people with irritable bowel syndrome, cannabis use was linked with reduced readmission. And then there is this retrospective study in IBS patients. Cannabis users tended to have shorter hospital stays and less of them. And here is a good study of long-term cannabis use associated with improvements in IBD. There was an associated decrease in the use of other medications, and the average dosage used was about 30 grams of flower per month, or 21 milligrams of THC and 170 milligrams of CBD per day. Lastly, I'll end with a case study of using CBD to treat the anxiety of a Crohn's patient. And as somebody dating somebody with Crohn's, I know how anxiety-inducing that disease can be. Anyway, that's not even half the studies in humans, but I think you get the picture. So, how does your endocannabinoid system play into this? Well, in this study of Crohn's disease, they propose using your endocannabinoid profile as a biomarker for measuring your disease flare-ups. And in patients with colitis, treatment with cannabis improved their endocannabinoid tone. So in practice, that meant for colitis patients who got the placebo, they had drops in their level of PEA, which is the endocannabinoid-like molecule that's so good for inflammation that's in our relief product, as well as drops in their level of anandamide, AEA, which is the first discovered endocannabinoid neurotransmitter, and arachidonic acid, which is the precursor to anandamide. Also, the reduction in bowel movements was linked to reductions in their blood levels of anandamide and oleoethanol amide, which is the cousin of anandamide and also an ingredient in our Reshape product linked to control of metabolism. Finally, higher quality of life was linked to higher levels of the endocannabinoid 2-AG. So, where are these endocannabinoids working? Well, here's a chart of the cannabinoid receptors from your guts to your brains. Blue is the CB1 receptor, gold is the CB2 receptor. Starting from the top, you have a number of brain areas that regulate appetite and metabolism that contain a lot of cannabinoid receptors. These are the reason not only do cannabinoids increase appetite, they also increase the hedonic value of food, which is a scientific word for your brain lighting up more happily when you eat, i.e. the munchies. Then you have neurons on the gut-brain axis itself, as well as in the spinal column where they regulate pain signals. That's why you have so many review papers on cannabinoids helping with the gut pain of these conditions. Less of the pain signals get passed on up the spinal cord. Then in the gut wall, you have receptors on the lining of your intestines themselves, and you also have CB1 receptors on your enterochromaffin cells, which are neuroendocrine cells, which means they act like both neurons and hormonal cells. They regulate the GI tract for things like intestinal motility, as well as releasing serotonin. Fun fact, you have way more serotonin in your guts than you do in your brains. Then you have mast cells, macrophages, and lymphocytes. These are all different types of immune cells. And as you can imagine, these are especially important for gut diseases, especially Crohn's and colitis, because those are autoimmune diseases where the body is attacking itself. The cannabinoids come in and say, calm those immune cells down. At the bottom of the gut chart are various types of neurons that connect back up to the gut-brain axis. These are master regulators, and the cannabinoid receptors help to modulate the messages going back and forth from the guts to the brains. Lastly, you see the microbiome over there, and while all the research on that complicated, rather new field is hard to do, it's clear that the cannabinoids interact with and often benefit the gut microbiome. I can cover the science of that in a follow-up video if you want. So, what does all this endocannabinoid machinery do? From the top down, they change your mindset and brain regulation around food and gut health. Then in the guts themselves, they change gut motility, or how fast things move through your guts. Also the gut permeability, as in how much stuff is allowed to cross from your gut into your body, the dreaded leaky guts. They also alter pain sensitivity because of the well-known pain-altering effects of the cannabinoids. They're big regulators of immune function and inflammation. And lastly, as we said, the gut microbiome itself, which is sometimes called the third brain, with your guts themselves known as the second brain. And now we know how it works, what other options do we have besides THC and CBD? In one double-blind human study of IBS, CBD and PEA, that endocannabinoid-like molecule mentioned earlier that's in our defense products, help both reduce permeability in the colon and help with IBS symptoms. Also, in children with irritable bowel syndrome, a combination of PEA and polydatin, which is a derivative of resveratrol, the wine anti-aging molecule everyone loves, together those two cause a significant reduction in abdominal pain, diarrhea, and it saw more patients achieving complete remission. Overall, there is a lot of preclinical work suggesting PEA for gut issues. Also, for regulating intestinal permeability, another combination is the endocannabinoid-like molecules oleoethanol amide, which is the one available in our Reshape products, and PEA, which is in the Relief products. In a mouse model of colitis, a mixture of CBD, CBG, CBC, and CBDV help with visceral pain. And a different mouse model of colitis, the terpene beta-caryophyllene reduced inflammation. And that terpene is the one that tends to be the most common in hemp extracts. And those last two studies go to show the power of full-spectrum extracts that use all the components of the plant, with the most research being done on CBG and CBD acid, the latter being in our Relief product. Another animal model of colitis, electroacupuncture helped repair the intestinal barrier via the gut microbiome and increase levels of the CB1 receptor. It's a very well-studied effect that acupuncture, often called the most proven of the non-traditional treatments, works at least partially via activating the endocannabinoid system. So, there's your rundown of cannabinoid gut science. As always, let me know if you have any questions.